Hey guys, we're in Southern California near Seal Beach, and I'm hanging out with the founder of Blix. This is Pontus.
Hey, how's it going?
Oh, it's great, man. It's really neat to see your new bikes because you've been in business since like 2014, and I've reviewed several of the older ones, yeah?
Yeah, correct. You've done a great job.
Yeah, thank you. I was really excited to learn a little bit about the history. A moment ago we were talking and you were saying that Blix means like lightning. You're Swedish, right?
Yes, born and raised.
So give me that, how did you pick this name? What's the...
So Blix, actually with a T at the end, means lightning in Swedish, which is the rapid movement of electrons or electricity.
Did Zeus have like a copyright on Blixt, so you took the T off and worked?
Yeah, no, exactly. I talked to him and he said I could have it. So,
That's spectacular. And it makes sense because it's an electric bike. And you were saying that the styles and the influence, can you just explain that a little bit here? What's the...
Yeah, so what we wanted to do, and my idea with Blix is that we wanted to bring in more of a stylish, very simple and clean look to electric bikes.
Almost vintage with some of these.
Yeah, you would say classic European design.
There you go.
And Scandinavian design. So it's a design that I grew up with and that I saw a lot in Sweden and biked around on bikes from the 50s. A lot in my childhood. So.
Well, and then the Aveny, you were saying that this word means like avenue, but there's actually a specific Aveny where you're from, right?
Correct. That street is called Aveny, which means the avenue, and it is a big avenue basically, and it's a big street in Gothenburg, Sweden, where I'm from.
Okay.
Kind of like a big Champs-Élysées street that you have in Paris as well, where people are walking and biking up and down and buying small things in here and there, and that's what that bike is made for, basically.
And
things like that.
Places to put it. Like check out this cool front basket that comes with the bike. It can hold, you're saying 15 kilograms, right?
Right.
Yeah, whereas the rear rack, it's pretty standard. It can carry 25 kilograms, which is roughly 55 pounds. So, more carrying capacity back here. You can put panniers on, which we see on the high step version, and we'll get over there in a second. It's got this spring latch. This is aluminum, both of them actually aluminum. And then I love the bamboo accent. It gives you a platform so that your bread or your drink in this case won't fall through. And then I've got the charger here. This is I think it's 1.3 pounds, but it puts out 3 amps. So this is faster than average. And I think you can actually charge the battery when it's mounted to the frame or separately, which is nice. So here's the charging port. I was looking at the lower left because sometimes they put the charging port down here and it can get snagged by the pedal. In this case, the key slot is a little bit lower, so you want to be careful with that. If you left the key in like this and then you were pedaling, it could come into contact. You don't want to bend that, or if you unlocked it and then you slide up, that key could be a little bit vulnerable. But in terms of charging, that's really not the case. And I think a lot of people would leave the battery on the bike just to charge it that way. When you want to take it off though, they've got this little lever on the base of the saddle, kind of flips up like that, really convenient. And we've left it unlocked right now so that I could slide it up like this. Pretty nice. It's the SpinTech B1. This is 36 volts, 11 amp hours. They do sell a 17.5 amp hour battery. And then here we go, just kind of line this up and it slides down, kind of locks in there. Anyway, they do sell that upgraded battery pack. And if you're someone who maybe you weigh a bit more and you're actually carrying some extra cargo, or you just want to go further, at what's $200 to upgrade to that at time of purchase?
$200 so now, yeah.
Not bad, not bad. And you do sell additional battery packs, and you sell either the smaller like stock battery or the larger one, so you could maybe have two, or kind of a his and hers setup where you have an extra battery you could swap between the two.
Yeah, correct.
Yeah, they're both 36 volts. That's
adds on about 20 miles per charge, so if you want to charge a little less every week or just go further, then that's an option basically.
Yeah, they estimate, depending on whether you use the trigger throttle or the higher levels of assist, there's 1 through 4, or the lower level of assist, it's all relative in your weight and the terrain and everything, but it's sort of a 20 to 40 mile range with the stock battery, and then maybe 20 to 60, maybe like 25 or 30 actually, because you've got that extra power at the lower end. So that's kind of neat. And then the rest of the electronics here, 350 watt. This is the same sort of R6 drive unit here. Again, SpinTech. So that's a brand that's new to me. You said this is maybe proprietary to you guys?
Yeah, so it's a system that we developed on ourselves here with a partnership with our manufacturer as well.
Okay,
so
cool.
it's something that we're in control of basically, and can customize, you know, very much the way we want it to be.
That's nice. And then again, coming back to the battery size options, I really appreciate that. And the way the battery's positioned here, it's low, it's relatively centered on the bike. You know, we do have this box here with some cables coming out, a quick disconnect if you have to do service on the rear wheel, but these are nuts rather than quick release. On the front, we've just got a 9mm quick release, pretty standard. The rear, not the case, so getting a flat would be a bit of a bummer, a little bit of extra work. And that cable, you'll notice that the shifter cable is there already. It's a little bit more crowded. You don't want the bike to tip or to snag, but the rack actually, it sort of protects it. It juts out a little bit, so if the bike did tip over, maybe it's not as big of a deal. This box probably has a controller unit in it, keeps it fairly well hidden, and then again, separate so that the batteries are probably a little bit lighter weight. And maybe cheaper. That's part of why it's so cheap to upgrade. This little disc here, this black thing with the magnets on it, that's a 12 magnet cadence sensor, which is pretty nice. That's like a higher resolution, so it's a little bit more responsive when you start or stop. But one of the things Pontus was telling me earlier is that they designed the motor to be a little bit more smooth in ramping up, so it's not like as on-off feeling. Is that something that's based on customer feedback?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you do want a very smooth and natural feeling on any bike you ride, right? So yeah. That's something that we worked a lot on, and I'm very happy with what we have right now.
Well, that's cool. It's nice to hear. You know, we're going to get out there, and I'll give you some feedback when I ride, but having the throttle, which is active at standstill, you can get yourself going from stops, and then you can kind of revert back to pedal assist and pedal comfortably without having to switch gears too much. They do have, you know, 7 speeds here. You got the trigger shifters up top. I do prefer that versus the big thumb shifters. These are just a little bit easier to reach, and they keep the cockpit looking a little bit cleaner too. Down here we've got a Shimano Acera derailleur that's several steps up, so it's not just turny basic. And I think that's nice, because I don't care as much how many gears I have, especially for like a city bike like this, but I do care about the component group being a little bit nicer, so you don't have to do tune-ups as much, and maybe it shifts a little bit smoother. The wheel size is actually different, so that's 28-inch wheel on the high step versus 26 on the step-through, and that's nice because it brings the whole frame down. You know, a taller wheel has a higher center point here, so that's really nice. The tires were also custom done to sort of match the grips and the faux leather saddle and everything. I love that they have a reflective sidewall and the K-shield puncture protection, because you remember me saying, you know, it's not fun to get a flat tire on the rear. I would recommend checking the PSI, making sure it's high enough, because over time, if you're going off curbs and maybe banging into curbs, you can get kind of a pinch flat, or snake bite is what they call it. So it's nice that they've gone a step above with the tires, and then just how beautiful this thing is paint matched on the front basket. You know, we've got a paint matched plastic fender. These are SKS, so you know, they might rattle around a little bit more than aluminum or steel. I haven't actually noticed that as much, because you can see that the rack, it's got this reinforcement strut that goes under, and Pontus was saying that's a visual decision there, rather than having, you know, some silver arms coming off here and kind of crowding the battery area. It just looks like the rack is freestanding, but it's actually very stable because of this metal piece. And then you can see that the wire is run for the rear light as well, and it's in a tube housing. So there's a lot of attention to detail here, and higher quality build. But coming back to the plastic fenders, they don't actually shake around that much, and I thought they were metal at first just because of how nicely paint matched they are. So again, paint matched rack, everything looks good. The step-through comes in this cream color as well as British Racing Green, kind of glossy, and then the high step comes in the glossy black or sort of a royal blue. Looks really nice, and we purposely took the basket off to weigh it. The bike weighs 52.3 pounds, which isn't bad, especially for being feature complete, having integrated lights and everything, which means they run off the main battery pack. This is Kenda by Spinninga, and then the rear light is Linneo by Spinninga. I've seen this one quite frequently on higher quality bikes. It's pretty big, so even if the light's not on, you still have that reflector helping you out. And again, those reflective sidewall stripes, great, especially on a black bike like this. Just, you want to stand out when you're riding in the city. Hopefully you're going to have a comfortable body position, sort of heads up, because these handlebars sweep back a little bit, and they've got those, again, faux leather ergonomic grips. These aren't locking, they might spin a little bit. I haven't really noticed that. They actually feel pretty comfortable. But otherwise, another little upgrade that they've done here on the high step version is a chain guide. So there's a metal plate on the inside and outside of the front chain ring. And that way the chain won't bounce off as easily. It sounds like they're in a transitional period where the step-through model over here, they only have, it's like kind of a single-sided plate. So you might see that, you know, if you're in at a dealer, depending on, you know, which version you get. But that's a minor thing, and that's still going to protect your pants if you're pedaling along, or maybe your skirt if that's hanging down a little bit. It's going to hopefully keep it off of that chain and not get so greasy. And they were able to do that without a full chain cover, which can often get bent or just create more rattling noise. I did want to call out that the seat post here, this is 27.2 millimeters. It's steel versus aluminum, which is kind of interesting, but it gives you that flip up mechanism, and I think steel tends to be like really tough and strong. So I'm mentioning this in part because sometimes I like to get a seat post suspension, and you could swap this out, but if you do that, then you might want to put a quick release seat collar here so that you can get the battery on and off pretty easily. It's a quick trade-off. I don't know. Then the saddle, it's like Grand Star. I'm less familiar with them, but it's got this nice rubber bumper and it's a pretty comfortable saddle. So trying to do the really in-depth look at this thing. Maybe the final point to mention, in addition to these swept back bars, which bring you up and back, is that they've got like a 45-degree angle on this quill stem. It's not too long, and it can be raised or lowered a little bit. This is kind of old school, like traditional city bike sizing. So 25.4 millimeter clamp diameter, inch instead of an 1.1 inch. This is not tapered or anything, it's just straight. And then again, aluminum alloy frame, a little bit of rake on that front fork, and then of course the brakes themselves. So these are 160 millimeter front and rear. We've got Tektro levers. These are the rubberized ones with the bell. You'll notice how everything on this bike, all the accents are silver, even the kickstand, which is far enough back that it stays clear of the crank arm. Really appreciate that. And even the pedals, these are VP, they're silver, they got a little bit of rubber tread, so if you slip off, it's not like metal pins are going to cut into your shin, which happens to me frequently as an avid cyclist and mountain biker. Yeah, it's just kind of neat to see all this. By the way, I want to call out that these are 12 gauge spokes in the rear, so that's designed to handle the added weight of cargo and the added forces of that motor. It's a 350 to roughly 500 watt peak. It is internally geared. It's also silver. It blends in nicely. And Pontus was saying, you know, they estimate it's like 60 Newton meters of torque on that, which is just pretty good. I'll let you know how it feels when we go riding. And I have measured these. I want to call out that some of the cables are internally routed, not all of them. But coming back to measurements, one important measurement is standover height. So for the step-through, this one's going to be really easy to mount, but it's going to have a little bit less frame stiffness. It's not bad. I'm actually not seeing a lot of frame flex or feeling a lot because of the step-through design. There's double tubing going on. But this bike, it's, you're sacrificing a little bit of performance. I was surprised. The high step, it's a larger frame, definitely. And the standover height's like 31 inches, which is about what my inseam is. So I kind of got on there and I was like, okay, I can barely make it. So if you're a taller rider, this might be the way to go, but it is definitely a bigger bike. Coming back to his and hers, not every guy is super tall, so maybe the step-through British Racing Green could be a good option and would still look fairly masculine. Have you ridden on that one? You're a tall guy, so.
Absolutely, I like the cream too, though.
Yeah, it's nice because it's got this brighter, like easier to see visual footprint. Yeah. And I keep hearing me talk about safety and hammering it. It's something I really care about. And I do like that not only do you have the headlight here positioned well below the basket so it won't get blocked, but look at this, they even like routed the support arm around the light so it would stay out of the way. I'm going to go ahead and activate those. So this is a two-step process. You have to come back here to the battery, press the power button, and then you come up here to the display and hold the M button here for a second. And there we go, it boots up. So we've got 5 ticks on the battery indicator. It starts in assist level 1, but we can take that down to 0 by pressing the down arrow. And then I think, yeah, even in 0, look at that, you've basically got throttle operation, so you can scoot around that way if you want and not worry about activating pedal assist. And then we had speed, it was going up there for a second. If we press the mode button, which again is on top, it cycles from current speed to average speed, max speed, odometer, trip distance, trip time. So very cool. And then if we want to activate the lights, just hold that up button for a couple seconds. There we go, and we got backlighting here. And then there's that nice kendo in the front. And I'll try to get the Linneo in the rear too. Yeah, very nice. So it's a pretty simple display. There's a little bit of reaching going on to get to those buttons, especially because the trigger throttle is right there. It's, you know, this side's a little bit more crowded, but it gets the job done. I want to call out also these threaded metal connectors and just the wraps that they used. I feel like it's really nice. It looks good, and it's hidden in this frame. It even looks like there's a gusset here on the down tube to reinforce and add some strength to reduce that frame flex that I was talking about earlier. There are a few more settings. If we hold the up and down keys for a second, yeah, there we go. So we're in the display, trip clear. Yeah, so you can clear the trip meter if we want to. Yes, okay, let's do that. Press the mode button on top. Backlighting, 3 levels of brightness, which is kind of nice. I'm gonna leave it at the brightest. And then miles or kilometers. So that's how you do it. That's all the different settings you can experiment with. And then it goes around again. So you have to hold the mode button for a second to get out. Very cool. I feel like that's kind of it. And again, the trigger throttle overrides all the levels of assist. So this bike, it's a little bit more advanced in the sense that anytime it's on, that throttle is live. So you want to be careful with it, but it's a trigger throttle. It's smaller, it's out of the way. Sometimes it's a little bit riskier if it's like a half grip twist throttle over here because you're mounting the bike and you're trying to stabilize yourself and you might twist the throttle accidentally. In this case, that's probably not going to happen because it's trigger throttle. I think I'm just going to hop on this thing and give it a ride. But did I miss anything, or do you want to add anything, Pontus?
No, I mean, I would like to just highlight that the basket comes with the bike.
Oh yeah,
so that's the rear
and it's
rack.
4 pounds, right, on that basket. So when we took it off, the bike probably weighs more like 56 or 57 pounds with the basket.
Yeah. And what's neat about it is you also have a little integrated drink holder.
Oh yeah. Let's go over here because there's also like a little toolkit that you get. There we go. Look at this thing. It's got like a little wrench and everything, and then there's this bag, and that's the bike. That's the bike I'm on right now, and I don't know if that's San Francisco in the background or something.
It's New York, actually.
Oh, that's New York? Okay, I need to learn my skylines.
Yeah.
Just pedal around. Take this thing around, show you guys the motor, get some feedback. I'll see you in a second.
All right.
And I'm going to take it apart across the grass because I want to see how these fenders sound. Very quiet. That motor is super quiet for a geared hub motor. And then I think I'm getting full power assist. One of the other things I want to call out is that the levels of assist go around. So see, I'm in 4 right now, and if I click up, it goes to 0. So it's cycled all the way around. I'm going to go back to 4 just to show you how responsive everything is. Definitely like a delayed, smooth, subtle feeling, more natural, but not as instantaneous. And I would complain about that if I didn't have access to the throttle. And you can see the power meter there surging as I kind of juice it. Yeah. Hey guys, from here you can see the Spin Technologies logo, 350 to roughly 500 watt output on that thing. Listen to it as we pedal. I'm going to be using the highest level of assist and a little bit of throttle mode too mixed in. 14 to 28 teeth on that Shimano cassette, Shimano Acera Derailleur, and then this one has the 44 tooth chainring versus 48 tooth on the step-thru, and that's because the wheel sizes are different. This one has the larger 28-inch wheels. Not bad. We're going like 11 miles per hour through the grass. Feels like there's good power. Definitely just smooth, subtle, and one of the quietest hub motors I've tested on any electric bike. And it's feeling pretty good. I'm not seeing like speed wobble or anything. It's kind of nice. Yeah, especially for having a rack up there. And then the brake levers both have motor inhibitors, so anytime you pull on them, you're overriding the motor and you don't need to worry about this thing getting out of control. And because it's a hub motor in the rear, you don't have to worry about shift detection or anything like that. It's completely separate with how you pedal versus how the motor responds. I'm gonna shift through some of the gears here. And it is using mechanical disc brakes. So, you know, they have the 4-finger levers versus 2 or 3. A little bit more hand effort on the right-hand side because that mechanical, you know, wire has to go all the way to that back rear wheel. But this is good enough for kind of city riding. This is 20 mile per hour top speed on this bike, class 1. Actually class 2 because it has the throttle, which I suppose you could disconnect if you're someone who's not comfortable with throttles. It's probably another disconnect point in there. You know, it's a pretty good setup. I think the style aspect of it really impresses me. I can tell there's a lot of attention to detail, especially with that fender support in the rear. Handle that curb like a champ.
Okay.
Yeah, this was awesome, you guys. I had a lot of fun checking out the Blix Aveny, and it's always an honor to get to meet the people behind the bikes.
Yeah.
Thanks for your help. And again, this bike comes in a couple different styles or sizes, and then there's a folding bike we're also going to review. For the full write-up on this one, along with standover height, length, the reach, all the tire stats for both of these, so the PSIs and stuff, I'll see you back at ElectricBikeReview.com. Of course, I welcome your feedback. You can sound off here in the comments or in the forums. Have fun out there and ride safe.